So you send the letter in. You send the letter in saying that this is a racist endeavour, and
well, no, what I said in an email
in an email, sorry,
to Gary and to Gary Smith, that's his name, and he, I'm basically poking the snake. I'm saying, this is something else that's in the IHRA definition, which is a reality, and Israel's based this IHRA definition around all the things that it never wants to be criticised for. So if it says it's anti-Semitic to say Israel's exaggerating the Holocaust, then they have a good reason for that, because they don't want anyone to say it. They don't want anyone to suggest it. So I stuck my head in the lion's mouth and I said it. And for that, that was the big issue with the GMB, because they basically sent me an instruction to cease and desist. Now, any organization that you're part of can send you an instruction to cease and desist. And if you refuse to cease and desist, they say you've broken the rules and they can expel you. And you can say that about a golf club, say that about the Labour Party, you can say that about a trade union. As to whether it's a reasonable thing to do, well, the membership should decide, but the membership never got asked.
So just quickly explain what the GMB is, just for the viewers at home.
General Municipal and Boilermakers Union. It's got about 650,000 members.
650,000 members, and these are obviously, those are people of NHS, fire force, police, that sort of thing. It's obviously not just.
Well, there's a lot in the private sector, ASDA. They recruit all over the place in industry. They're pretty big. British Aerospace,
It's fair to say the GMB union is predominantly made up of people that work in the work for the government, so to speak, work for the private sector.
They're a mix. They're not like Unison. Unison are all public sector. GMB is a mix, and it's actually kind of seen as, I would say, the military wing of the Labour Party. They are very close to the Labour Party, and if you look at the way that some of the officers, they move, like in Scotland, the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland is ex-GMB. You'll find that these trade unions have a sort of revolving door with leadership senior officers in the Labour Party.
So, were you suspended originally because of this, or did they say that you were suspended pending an investigation? How did it all go down?
As a shop steward, I kind of more or less instantly, got the letter saying you can't be a shop steward. We're suspending you as a shop steward. I continued to be a member, and I continued to put motions forward to the GMB meetings. In fact, some of my friends tried to get a motion through a GMB meeting saying that the IHRA should be got rid of because it wasn't fair and it was targeting people for criticizing Israel. That motion was disallowed at the GMB branch meeting because it disagreed with GMB policy. So they imposed this thing without telling any of the members. And then when some members say, well, actually, it's not very good, we think you shouldn't do it, they silence that voice. The whole thing's a joke. How do you change a crazy policy if they won't allow members to have a motion saying we shouldn't have it? Because that's what happens. And this is why the GMB is a profoundly undemocratic union.
Well, it certainly seems to be. If they've forced this upon you without you having a vote on it, and then you say no, we don't want this, and say no, tough, you've got it now. That's totally undemocratic.
But all the trade unions did this. All the political parties did this. None of them consulted their members. This was all done behind closed doors. A few people went to Tim Roach, who's the leader of the GMB, sometime in August, July. No, actually, it was probably June, July, and convinced him that the union needed it. I don't know what hold these folk had over him, but he jumped. And he said, yes, we do need it. And without even discussing it with his executive committee, he was making public statements in August saying that we needed it and the GMB were going to take it. And they didn't actually discuss it until the 4th of September. The GMB had already mandated their two officers to vote in favour before they themselves had made the decision to adopt it. The Central Executive Council, I only found this out a couple of weeks ago, adopted it on the 4th of September. And how did they tell the membership? They sent out a few emails to the regional branches, But then the regional branches never told the members because they don't do that kind of thing. We don't get emails from the London office. We get them from the Glasgow office. So the whole system didn't work, but they didn't care. That was all pointed out to them at the hearing. They didn't care. It's a rule. It's a rule. You have to obey it. We don't care whether you knew about it or not.
Yeah, and if you don't want the rule tough, you've got it, and there's no way. It's not policy for us to retract it.
Yeah, take a hike. Yeah. One of the things I was curious about was where's this complaint come from? Because, it came out of the blue. 2nd of November, got a letter from the GMB. You're a vile anti-Semite. Why? Where? I mean, I've been dealing with the Labour Party, and suddenly my union's involved. And someone I know rang up the GMB head office in Glasgow and said, they were on good terms with the person they phoned up, who was a senior GMB organiser, and said, what's this all about? And the person on the other end of the phone said, oh, is this Rio Wolfson's thing? Now, I didn't know who Rio Wolfson was, but I began to find out after that. So this was coming from someone called Rio Wolfson, who I later discovered is senior, very senior, in the Jewish labour movement. And I also found out, again at my hearing, the first hearing where they decided they were going to expel me on the 19th of December, I said, well, when was this complaint lodged? And they told me the 28th of September. And I was like, what did I do on the 28th of September? How on earth could it have led to a complaint? And I dug through all the things. And what was the one thing I did on the 28th of September? I did one thing which obviously upset a lot of people. I wrote to every member of the NEC and the complaints unit at the Labour Party saying, you have to disaffiliate the Jewish labour movement. Because I'd just seen the film, the Al Jazeera film called The Lobby. And The Lobby makes it absolutely clear that these guys are taking money from Israel to undermine Labour politicians, particularly Corbyn. And there it is. There's foreign money coming into our country, being fed through this parasitical body called the Jewish Labour Movement, who are affiliated to the Labour Party, who are then using it to attack Corbyn. And this is shameful. And I said, this cannot be right. You cannot have a body affiliated to the Labour Party which is undermining it in this way. And there's evidence. There's a film. This guy, an undercover reporter, filmed it all. And what happened? 5 days later, my complaint was dismissed. However, one of the people I'd written to on the 28th of September was Rio Wolfson.
Rio Wolfson.
And I didn't realise that at the time. But she was sitting on the NEC and she got my emails. So she got quite a few emails from me complaining about the Jewish labour movement. And all the time she was thinking, alarm
troublemaker.
signals. Yeah, troublemaker. We've got to nail this one. And John Lansman hated me because, he grew up in a kibbutz and he's mad about the IHRA. And I don't feel that way, even though I'm also in Momentum and I managed to annoy him. And so he and Rio Wolfson are behind this. And Rio Wolfson, then I discovered, was a senior organiser at the GMB in Scotland. And she got Gary Smith to nail me. And it's worked. She must be very pleased. But they paint this picture of her as the victim and as me as the bully. And, of course, they'll do that. They'll use anything they can to paint me as an anti-Semite. But it's garbage. She is just a crazy Zionist. And I call her a raving Zionist. And I mean that. And I say, well, as a Jew, I love her. But as a Zionist, I despise her. And the GMB can't cope with this. They even brought this up at my appeal hearing. Mr. Gregson said, as a Jew, he loves her, and as a Zionist, he despises her. That's an appalling thing to say. I don't think it's appalling. I think you can criticize a political movement like you can criticize fascism or nationalism, and Zionism is just a political movement. You criticize a political movement, you're not saying anything about Jews. You're just saying the movement's bad.
Absolutely. I mean, if you criticize. If you criticise any government, you're not actually criticising the religion of that country at all. It's ridiculous. Now, so you have your hearing.
Well, I had a hearing on the 5th of March. That was the GMB. I had the president of the GMB, no less. I mean, they had the big boys there, the woman, and there was about 10 of them sitting around, and they basically, I had the rabbi came in, the rabbi from the Neturei Karta, Rabbi Cohen. And he said to them, nothing that Mr. Gregson has done affects me, and I'm an Orthodox Jew. Nothing he has said is critical or threatening or prejudicial against Jews. And if I don't think he's an anti-Semite, then why do you think he's an anti-Semite?
And that's a rabbi.
Yes, that was a rabbi. Yeah.
So you have the hearing on the 5th of March, and the rabbi comes and speaks on your behalf and says if you're an anti-Semite, then basically he is. And surely they saw sense and said, okay, that we'll reinstall you, and apologies for everything that we've done and we didn't realise, and now we're educated, we'll move on. That's what happened, isn't it, Pete?
No. Well, the thing is, you see, this is how organisations work. So they always back up the corporate management. You know, the thing works as management. So they have Gary Smith, who's the GMB Scotland organiser, who's declared me a violent anti-Semite and has to be expelled. And Gary's got the Scotland Executive Committee to agree with him. As to what they think individually, God only knows. I can't imagine they all think, you know, I'm an evil anti-Semite. But anyway, they always have to back up the officers. This is one of the problems with trade unions, is that there's this kind of concept of loyalty. So when it comes to GMB London, they just have to back up GMB Scotland. They cannot be other, because if they're other, they're undermining Gary Smith, who's a great mate of Tim Roach. You know, Tim Roach put him there. Tim Roach appointed him. He can't piss off. You know what I mean? They're beholden to Tim Roach, because if they piss off Gary, they're undermining Tim, and loyalty is key. So I'm just nothing. I'm a nothing. I'm a nobody to them.
Thanks for watching. Please make sure you're still subscribed and click the bell below for a notification of when I drop further videos. Also, click through to my website to find out ways which you can support me. I can't do this without your support, and I really appreciate it. Till next time, peace and take care.